6 o'clock. I will call the City of Allegan City Council meeting for Monday, June 9th, 2025 to order. Can I please have roll call, please?
Councilmember Zeter.
Present.
Councilmember Westover.
Present.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Councilmember Canales.
Here.
Councilmember Hooker.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Hands.
Present.
Mayor Perigo.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Moving down to agenda item number 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to stand, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move down to agenda item number 4A, which is approval of the regular council meeting agenda for June 9th, 2025. There are no changes to that, so it is as is. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Moving down to 5A, approval of the regular council meeting minutes from May 27th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Did you have some
Yes, I was just
corrections?
saying,
Sorry.
public hearings and adoption of ordinance, number 8, it says it started at 6:11 and it needs to say ended at 6:11. It just has 6:1.
Okay, thank you. So do you want to, your motion to show that?
Approve it with the amendment.
All right, thank you. Can I get
And
a
I'll
support?
second.
Okay. It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? No? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 5B is approval of the special council meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2025.
Make a motion to approve.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, one abstain. Motion passes. 5C is approval of the closed session meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2025, and I believe Joel is going to pass out those minutes. Give everybody a minute to review. Did you get it all? Not fresh, anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve the closed session meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and supported to approve the closed session meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2025. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And one abstention. All right. We will move down to agenda item number 8, as that is the next item on the agenda with information. 8A is a public hearing and approval of a purchase and development agreement between the City of Allegan and Allegan Development Company on the purchase and development of city-owned property commonly known as the Girl Scout property. And Joel, are you taking this one?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight is a public hearing on the potential sale of about 15 acres the city owns over near the Wolcott Highland neighborhood. It's commonly known as the Girl Scout property or the Girl Scout camp property. Last December, the city council approved a due diligence agreement with Allegan County, or Allegan Development Company to investigate the development of the Girl Scout property. Over the past 20 years. This property's been looked at by a handful of developers, including Kalamazoo Valley Community College. This developer spent the past 6 months doing their due diligence, coming up with, some plans. Most recently, City Council extended that due diligence agreement by 2 months to give us time to come to agreement on a purchase and development document. The developer is offering $100,000 for this land. We have had utility and traffic experts investigate the infrastructure, and it's their opinion that the infrastructure can adequately handle this development. Those memos were shared with you at your June 27th meeting in your packet, as well as again in your June 9th packet. The developer is in the audience this evening, Mr. Kappinga. I will let you know that their attorney still is reviewing the purchase and development agreement. Our city attorney is on vacation this week, so it is my recommendation that you move forward with the public hearing and postpone any action on the actual agreement until your next meeting, which will be June
23rd.
23rd, thank you, Mayor, to June 23rd, to give their attorney time to thoroughly review the agreement, and as well as time for our city attorney to respond to, any recommended changes. I think it's safe to say we're about 95% there in the negotiations with the agreement, the purchase price is what the purchase price is. Council, you've seen the proposal. This was shared with you at the 27th of May meeting, but for those in the audience, just a reminder, we're looking at 38 units, 26 condos, 12 townhouses. The land acquisition cost there is $100,000. The total development cost is $1.6 million. This is a housing product that I would offer is necessary in the city of Allegan. We've actually have lost a couple households that had to move to other communities because they got to that point in their life where it was time to move out of the 5-bedroom, 2-bath house and into a condo, and that's something that we really just don't have an abundance of in the city of Allegan. I would also offer that if you remember the Allegan County housing analysis, that housing study that they completed, the county's short about 6,200 housing units. We do have a housing shortage in the community, so this helps fill that need. The neat part of this development is, as the developer is well aware, as city council is well aware, the previous developments where they kind of failed, they were trying to maximize the full 14 acres and develop the lower level as well. This development stays on the Highlands part of this parcel, and then the lower level will be donated to the Allegan Conservation District for a nature area, and their plan shows parking and walking trails, et cetera, that can occur there. We've been in conversations with the Conservation District. They're excited to receive this gift and then work with the community on what that vision would be in that area. And it'll be a nice amenity for the neighbors in that area. As I mentioned, it's our recommendation that we just do the public hearing tonight, but if there's additional comments from council, this is the second time in a public meeting you've seen this proposal. The developer did drive down from Grand Rapids to, listen and answer any comments that may be from the council.
All right. Do we want to do public hearing first then?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
So if there's comments from the public, we can also respond to those.
All right, okay, at 6:09, I will open the public comment. If you do have a public comment on the Girl Scout property, please approach the podium, state your name and address. If there are any questions, we will hold those questions and answer those at the end, instead of doing a back and forth type thing. So at 6:09, I will open public comment. Yes, please, you are it right now.
I didn't want to make sure I did everything
Yes.
appropriately.
There wasn't a run.
No. But thank you for allowing me. I know I have 3 minutes, I think is what it said. But my name's Jeff Mills. I live at 3198 Hilda Avenue, which is on the pond behind the property. So it kind of butts up to where the Girl Scout property is. It's surrounded by the Wanderers property, if you will. But I was here approximately, I think in July, almost a year ago, when you were looking at developing, I think it was 46 homes. And at that time, they said it was too expensive to put the infrastructure in. And so right after that meeting, I emailed Joe. I said, Joe, I would be more than happy to purchase a property, just put a price on it. Well, we need to get an appraiser, we need to look at it, we need to see what we have to do. That was back in July. And I have many emails going back and forth to Joe saying, just let me know when this property's up for sale. Recently, I think it was back in September, he said, I'm just too busy, there's other projects that are taking its place. So I guess the question is, how do I figure out to get a due diligence agreement to come up with a developer? I got a developer in Grand Rapids that would love that property. I even stated back in July, this is $1 million views. It's gorgeous. I mean, you're getting a beautiful piece of property up there. It's gorgeous. But how does a common resident that lives around this property enter into a due diligence? So that's my first question. What's the process of entering into a 6-month due diligence agreement in order to maybe develop this property and things like that? Never had an opportunity. Never got back to me, if you will, of what price. I thought there was gonna be an appraiser that was gonna look at that to put a price on the property to sell it. And I've got a lot of people lined up right now that would like to purchase that piece of property. So that's the first thing. And then my second question is, any tax breaks? Any, thing that you're gonna be giving this developer in return? Because last year, there was, I think, a tax credit that you were gonna apply to this property that was gonna run like 15, 20 years. So really, the revenue wasn't even gonna come for 15, 20 years, but the people that moved in would be, using their income and things like that. So I'd buy the property tax, so I'll be paying taxes right off the bat. Or develop it to $1 million homes and sell those, and you'd have a nice return. And then I guess, what was the date that was actually when that due diligence agreement was signed? I'm just curious, or even when it was discussed with Joel, because I've got emails back and forth, and it was just disappointing to kind of hear that there was an agreement that was entered into. And I go, oh my goodness, I met with you. I said, what properties do you have that I can develop, that I can put apartments, that I can put condos on? And then I got this due diligence agreement, So thank you, I appreciate you allowing me, but again, I'd really love to do business. I've connected with a lot of people, but it was just disappointing to hear, because I came to the meeting 9 months ago thinking that this property is going up for sale, and then never had an opportunity to put a purchase price in. So, thank you.
No, great. I wrote down those questions as quick as I could, and we can,
I have them again.
okay, all right, great. Is there any other public comment about the Girl Scout property? All right, I don't see no further public comment. I will close the public hearing at 6:13. And Joel, I know we had talked last meeting that at the end of the meeting, you're going to answer these questions as you're able to during public hearings or public comment.
So during the public comment section.
Okay.
Of not of,
Okay, of a
like
public
the
hearing.
open public comment, for comments not on the agenda item.
Okay.
Would be my recommendation.
Okay, all righty.
But if there's any questions for the developer, and then if council has questions about the development, you can ask questions.
Okay.
If you have questions about my work,
All right,
we have a closed session to review my job
Yep.
performance in a month.
yep, thank you. Any discussion amongst council on this?
Yeah, I have a little bit.
Yeah,
It was brought to my attention that I didn't realize it was this gentleman, but 2 other groups, possibly 3 groups, were at one point interested in putting up a price. I want all of us to know the little things I've learned. I just want us to be aware, and so that we can, when we have to make a decision, we can go forward. 2, maybe 3 other groups that were ready to buy the property, or said they could pool together or whatever. Another resident in that area gave me some good ideas if it does end up with yourself or another developer, whatever. But traffic is the biggest problem, and it seems to be the worst problem amongst all the residents, all the added traffic. So with the road coming up to Walcott, there's a possibility, I guess there's a right-of-way off of Riverside that goes straight east. At the end of the road, before it turns, it goes straight. Right next to the house that's for sale, it was proposed possibly moving the house and having the road go that way, block off. So maybe there are other options than just coming up to Walcott.
I believe that house is, at least it says sale pending on it.
Oh,
Yeah, you guys are talking about Brad's house, that's sale pending.
Yeah, it's sale pending.
oh, okay.
You guys know Brad?
I know,
Oh, I do, yeah, it's sale pending.
Sale pending.
okay,
He's moving with his girlfriend.
okay,
At least that's what I saw online.
okay.
If you can believe that, on Zillow.com.
Well, I don't know, even with that, I don't know if there's room there. I don't know, maybe he wouldn't mind a road going right past him, but, then at the end of the property that ends up on Babylon, there's a small section that juts out to Babylon. Do we know the cost? Was that looked at? Did you get a cost on,
Is that the same that we talked about? I'm trying to think back when I was on council.
road?
The last time, it's too many valleys in that? Is that
Is it
where
there- yeah,
it was
so-
talked about?
I don't know if council's had a chance to walk this land. I know the Public Spaces Commission has walked it, and Bill Morgan was the council member at that time on that committee. But what you're referring to is what I'm gonna call just a shoehorn that goes out to Babylon. There's a significant valley in that area. And what I was told was you're looking at $1 million bridge,
Yeah.
is what I was told, to build a bridge, to bring a road, off that. And I was told when Kalamazoo Valley Community College was looking at it, they had a concept plan showing that. They even, shared concerns at that time. And, even if the community of Allegan voted to be part of their district, they go, we don't know if we can bring it off Babylon.
Yeah, you need a bridge or a very big culvert and a lot of fill. If you look at the topographics,
Yeah.
I've seen it's pretty much just right after Riverview Park Drive. There's a valley that cuts down, so there's that road, and then there's the house. Right between that, there's this woods, and that's where the beginning of that really big valley
Okay.
cuts all the way back.
And for the council, I would just remind you, you do have a report from a professional traffic engineer that is does this for a living, is certified. He has looked at the Institute of Traffic Engineer reports that shows traffic generations for all types of development. And in his report, which is in your packet, the packets are also posted online. It's full transparency that way. This proposed development is not going to have a significant impact on the road infrastructure in that neighborhood, based off the experts.
The road infrastructure, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of us can disagree that the traffic would drastically change
Yeah.
the neighborhood
Yep.
as it is. But as long as we're,
Yeah, be aware of that. I mean, it's the same thing with the new elementary school going in over off Sunset. There's 5 houses that lived on a very quiet, dead-end street, and now it's the main entrance to the elementary campus of Allegan.
and we understand the need for increased tax revenue, increased housing. That is a must as well. Yep. Last question is, I was going to bring this up before that gentleman, but maybe before our next meeting, we could go over just the financing, how the tax, the whole thing that we have in a prior
Yeah,
meeting.
I'm comfortable having that conversation right now,
Okay,
if you're comfortable asking the question.
sure.
So what's your question exactly?
Could we get a brief synopsis of what, it was maybe a month or so ago
Yeah.
we went through that?
So what we're looking at for this project is similar to the project we looked at over on Delano. It's tax increment financing. This council, not a previous council, approved that tax increment financing plan. So development's expensive. At the end of the day, development's very expensive. The city will not be paying to put in the pre-development costs that you see up there. We're not gonna be paying to put in the infrastructure, the storm sewer, the water mains, the sanitary sewer, the roads, sidewalks, et cetera. That cost falls on the developer. The state of Michigan recognized how hard it is and how expensive it's gotten, especially since the housing crash of '08, to build neighborhoods. And so they amended their brownfield law to allow for residential tax increment financing. So the developer, similar to what occurred at 500 Delano Street with that development, will apply to the BRA, your Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. It's a 5-member committee that advises city council. They will put together a brownfield redevelopment plan that says, here's all of the eligible costs we would like to be reimbursed. So the taxes are, let's just hypothetically say they pay $1,000 a year right now in taxes. They do all this investment. The eligible expenses add up to 1.6 million. Again, just hypothetical numbers. As they get, as the taxes are generated, they get reimbursed that 1.6 million. The city gets 10% each year of those taxes. Once they're paid off, then it goes, all the taxes go to the appropriate taxing jurisdictions. And just a reminder for council, even if someone pays $5,000 in taxes a year in the city of Allegan, the school system gets the super majority of that. The county gets, I think, 39% of every dollar. We have 39 cents of every dollar to run the city. So this is how this program would work here. Other than that, there's no tax breaks that the developer gets. There's no tax breaks that the residents that buy into this, they're not paying, they're still paying property taxes. It all comes to the city. We just reimburse the developer for the eligible expenses. And the developer has to prove to us that they've spent this much money. Receipts come in, we double check the receipts against the plan that was approved. Once it's approved at the BRA, city council, you then approve it, so you see those numbers. Then it goes to MISTA in Lansing. MISTA reviews it and approves it. Make sure, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So that's the process for this.
Can you remind me, Joel, I know you shared this with us before, and I don't know if it ever got put out in the lobby, like I had asked, of every dollar in taxes, what is the cents that we get, the city of Allegan? I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about that.
it's always fun to talk about that.
Yeah.
So we put that image in our annual budget, just to remind everybody. And I understand that the mayor has requested this, and I appreciate that.
I know, I'm like, I don't see it out there, I'm looking at
But
the
I will
case right now.
remind the mayor, and I'll remind all council members, you're all 1/7 my boss.
I know.
So if
I'm
one
the
of you
only
tells
that
me
I-
to scratch my belly, I'm gonna say that's a good idea, but I'm not gonna scratch my belly till
I know.
4/7 of you tell me to scratch my belly.
Can 3 others please tell them to put, I just think it's a good thing for citizens to know.
I just
that-
wanna be clear that we don't jump when one of you says jump, is all I'm going.
I'm gonna put it out there. but-
Yeah, I can find that in the budget, maybe if I flip through here, there we go, I just went through too fast.
I just think it's good, it's a good perspective.
Yeah, it's 36, for this upcoming fiscal year, it's 36.84. So 36.84 cents of every dollar that a person pays in taxes, in their property taxes in the city of Allegan, comes to the city of Allegan for us to run the city.
The rest goes out.
Allegan Public Schools gets 19.1%, Allegan County gets 15.7, state education tax gets 13.5, the Allegan Area Education Service Association gets 10.8, and the Allegan District Library gets 3.9.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You are welcome.
Did you get all your questions? I did. All right.
Thank you.
There were some other questions that were mentioned that I'm going to respond to here. First of all, Jeff is correct. Jeff has emails. Jeff's not wrong. The previous councils told me build a neighborhood. From day one, it was build a neighborhood, and the neighborhood is more than a handful of homes. And, I apologize, but there's only so much apologies one can do, that is what it is. Will, you mentioned there are other developers. I only know of one other one. Before Allegan Development Company was even in the picture, the city went out for bid, and we accepted proposals, and Terra Homes submitted one, and then I had a visit from a gentleman who has a connection with a council member here right now, and a local resident. They wanted to build tiny homes, a handful of tiny homes for veterans. And I said, well, we're going out for a proposal. He talked to me during New Year's Eve celebration on the riverfront. And I said, you can submit a proposal. Submit a proposal. A proposal was never submitted. Only one proposal was submitted that time, and that was in Terra Homes. And that was the massive, what I'm going to classify as a massive development in which we had the neighborhood meeting, last year that Mr. Mills was at. Other than that, if you said there's 2 or 3, I'd be intrigued to know about the other 2,
No,
because I only know of that one.
I was only referencing, I didn't want to assume because nothing's final. That's why I said if there are others, so
Yeah,
I know of others.
yep.
The tiny home did come and present to council once.
They did come at once, and then we hopped on their website and we saw trailer,
They
I
came
use the word
presented, but they
trailers,
never
not trailers like you're thinking.
They never came and submitted
On
the
trains.
RFQ at the time.
Those aren't boxcars kind of
Or
developments.
RFP.
And I talked to him about, Kansas City, they have an amazing tiny home village for veterans that suffer from PTSD. And it's a really cool community where they can be on their own. And it's actually funded by the VA. They helped fund a big development of it. They've done a couple of these throughout the Midwest and big cities. And I'm like, this would be great, look into this. There's funding for this program, but neither here nor there.
All right, are there other questions, comments from council? Okay, all right.
So my recommendation is that you postpone taking action on this because the development agreement that's in your packet, we're about 95% there.
Does that need a motion? Do we?
Yeah,
need
you would need a
okay.
motion to postpone this to your June 23rd meeting.
Okay,
I'll put in a motion to table 8A until June 23rd meeting.
Can we use the word postpone? I've been told by lawyers to change the word table to postpone. I apologize.
Make a motion to postpone any further action on 8A until June 23rd meeting.
I'll support that.
all right, it's been moved and supported. I will ask one more time, any other comments, discussion amongst council on this subject? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of postponing until the June 23rd meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, we will move down to agenda item number 9, which is our first public comment of the night. We do limit it to 3 minutes. State your name and address, please, when you approach the podium. And this is where, going forward, as discussed in the last council meeting, any questions that are proposed during the public comment, we will take those, and our city manager will address those at the end of the meeting. Correct, Joel? Is that what we discussed?
That is what we discussed.
All right, okay. All right, if you have any public comment, come on up. I see smiling faces, that's good. All right, I do not see anyone coming up for public comment for their first one. So we will move down to the next agenda item, which is 11A1, which is a review of the May Allegan Fire District meeting minutes. And Councilmember Walker, are you going to give us a synopsis, please?
Yes, although I walked into the meeting, I had to immediately leave, so, and I forgot my packet at home, but I do know that the damage from the tree that hit the corner of the building didn't do any internal damage, and that's not leaking inside, but insurance is on it, they're getting quotes and working on it, so. And I'm afraid I don't have the numbers of how many fires or incidents for this past month, but I'll have that next month.
That was the bulk of the meeting, was the insurance
Oh,
claim.
you were there, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of Will? All right, seeing none, 11C1, which is the acceptance of a report detailing an emergency purchase to repair the Water Utilities Directional Drill with an estimate of $12,312.74.
So I'm going to take this one real quick. Council, you should be aware that in your purchasing ordinance, the city manager has the authority to make emergency purchases, even though my limit is $10,000. The city owns a directional drill. We utilize the directional drill to install water services as we are replacing all the water services in the city of Allegan. This has been an extremely cost-effective way for us to move about. When the drill went down, each day it's down, we're losing the opportunity to do anywhere from 2 to 4 water services per day. So instead of waiting for council to discuss whether or not we need to repair this, I went ahead, made a decision to get that order started so we don't end up losing 2 to 3 weeks of time, but maybe just 2 weeks of time. You may recall, we were fortunate, working with Abonmarche, our engineer of record, to secure a $3 million grant from Eagle. We call it a Booker Fund, but it's being used to replace these water service lines. We have about $500,000 left to spend by August 31st. So every day counts. That's another reason why I made the decision to just go ahead and get this thing ordered and get it fixed and back up and running. That is a use it or lose it grant. And we will not be eligible for that funding ever again. So we're going good. We're on schedule to utilize it all, but this little downtime we did not want to deal with. So, any questions on the emergency purchasing power I have?
No, not that,
Okay,
but the equipment is reimbursable with the Booker Fund?
so yeah, we purchased it and we're renting it out. So we're renting it, the Booker Fund is paying for it because we have a rental rate on it.
Okay, okay. And then the lead and galvanized lines, it's used for lead and galvanized
Yeah.
lines. What,
Doug, can you come to the podium? Because I don't want you to speak from the audience. Thank you.
will we make the August 31st deadline to?
We are trying. Right now, the last submittal I did for reimbursement, it looks like we will. This kind of throws a little wrench into it, being down, but we're also, Millbackers, because we had contracts with Millbackers, they're still out there working, finding services. There's some of them that they can do, if they're really short, they dig it in themselves. We have used cable that they run through the existing line and pull it in. That only works for some of them. If there's any types of bends, angles, elbows in the existing water line, pulling does not work. We've probably used the drill for 85 to 90% of the services that we have replaced in the last 3 years. So the plan is, yes, we will be using the $3 million, but it's going to be close to getting there at this point.
Great, yeah, thank you.
Anything else from council on this agenda item? No? Okay. 11C2 is a request to approve PO 26-0816 to Abonmarche in the amount of $15,000 for design and construction engineering for the sewer lining on Grand Street and Water Street.
Yep, so, you've already approved engineering for the water main on Grand Street. Along with that, the sewer main on there is getting older, but still in decent condition. So we thought while we're doing the water work, let's get the sewer lined on there also. Recently, if you've noticed in Village Market's parking lot, they have some pallets setting out by the sidewalk. There's a sinkhole there. To do our due diligence, because we're not sure why the sinkhole is there, Had a company come in to televise the sewer line that runs along the backside of the businesses on Water Street, underneath the Shell station, under 222, and then through the parking lot of Village Market. And then it actually runs under the Perigo warehouse that's behind Village Market. In televising it from, I'm gonna say, right around the Shell station, we found a section of sewer that a 10-foot patch that had been put in approximately 2010 settled. And there's about a 3-inch offset in that 10-inch, in that pipe, that 10-foot pipe. They're actually gonna do an emergency patch on each end of that so that it's not leaking raw sewage into the groundwater. But in televising sections of that pipe, they found that, some of it's cracked, some of the joints are starting to separate. Because of the location running behind the buildings on Water Street, underneath the Shell station, replacement would be difficult and costly. The sewer is not in a condition that it warrants replacement yet, other than these locations, but lining of the sewer is totally feasible and would repair all of these defects that we have seen so far in it, and at a fraction of a cost of replacing that sewer. So while the crew was on Grand Street doing that, virtually right next door, it's like, this needs to be done also. Let's get this section done also.
So it's on Water Street, it's only up to, it's not, okay.
Yep, believe it starts somewhere either behind Hans Environmental, Mugshots, runs behind Westside Auto, underneath the Shell station. I believe it's partially underneath their fuel tanks, under the road, and then through the Village Market parking lot.
Assuming that must be a deep line?
Pardon me?
Is that a deep line? Because
Yes, it's,
'cause Mugshots has a big drop down next to us. That's why I thought it started over kind of by.
there's a manhole where we've been televising right on the back corner of Westside Auto, between Westside Auto, the old Ace Building, and Shell, and that's probably 10 to 12 foot deep in that manhole.
I think there's dual line. There's also a line under Water Street as well, correct?
Yes.
Because we're serviced by the front line.
It will not line the sewer on Water Street, it's the one out front that you're connected to, just the one in back.
Another question. So once you reline it, how long should you expect that to last?
Lining should last 7,500 years. So what they do, when they go to line it, they televise it, any connections to the sewer, they measure, they mark, put in a liner. Basically, it's a fiberglass liner. It's a long sock. As it starts going into the sewer line, they put the resin on there. Once it's fully inserted, they fill it with hot water. It inflates it to the full size of the sewer line, and then they leave the hot water in for a couple hours. They take the hot water out, and then they go back in with their camera and a little tractor drill or cutter, and where all the laterals that come into it, they measure the distance to it, they locate it, and then they cut out in the fiberglass lining. So essentially, it puts about a 1/4 inch thick fiberglass lining throughout the entire pipe.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's a economical way to make a older sewer line new.
All right. Okay, can I get a motion to approve PO 26-0816?
I'll make a motion to approve the PO.
Second.
All right, so moved and supported. Any other questions, comments from council? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving down to 11D1 is a request to approve PO 26-0810 to Truck and Trailer Specialties in the amount of $75,159 for the purchase of a dump body and underbody scraper.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier this year, City Council, you approved the cab and chassis for a new, I'm just gonna call it a snowplow truck. It's gonna replace an old one. The next step of that is us approving the dump body that's gonna go onto it and underneath the underbody scraper that goes beneath it. This is about a 14 to 16-month process. This is part of the state's My Deal program. For those that may not be familiar with that, our purchasing ordinance allows us to piggyback on state programs where they go out, secure multiple bids, and determine a cost. So it meets our competitive bid requirements. Sourcewell is another process that we utilize that you'll see later on tonight. I do need to let you know that any cost increases such as tariffs through this process will be passed on, may be passed on to the city. So that's been shared to us by most of the vendors that we purchase stuff from. This is a long process, so we're still 14 to 16 months out. This is in the 2026 budget. We want to go ahead and get this ordered now instead of waiting until July 1st.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve PO 26-0810?
I make a motion to approve.
Support? All right, it's been moved and supported. Any questions, comments amongst council?
Yes. With the delivery 14 to 16 months, but last meeting we gave the PO for the truck. What is the delivery on the truck?
So the truck's going to arrive this fall. And it's going to be parked in the DPW garage and out of the weather, out of the climates, and just sit there and look pretty. You cannot order these as complete trucks if that's a question council has. It is a two-part process. And the reason we had to order that truck is because in about 2 months, all new engines are gonna have to meet the California emission test, and the engine price is going up $34,000 alone. So we saved $34,000 by jumping on that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Staff, me, including my department heads, constantly looking for ways to not cut corners, but be as efficient as possible with the public dollar. And this is an example of us trying to be as efficient as possible with the public dollar.
And Joel, you said it's in the next year budget, so is that when it will hit? So it'll not come out till the next budget?
So we'll go ahead and we'll do the purchase order right now. If we have to cut a check before July 1st, we'll cut a check. We have the money in our fund balances, council's well aware. So we'll be able to float this money till, July 1st and do a budget adjustment.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Okay, it's been moved and supported to approve PO 26-0810. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, 11D2 is a request to approve PO 26-0814 to Steensma Lawn and Power Equipment in the amount of $32,716.05 for the purchase of 3 zero-turn mowers.
Thank you, Mayor. So also, it's in our capital improvement budget for next year, which starts July 1st. 3 zero-turn mowers need to be purchased to replace old ones. These will all have 5-year warranties. 2 of them are 60-inch mowers. One of them is a 52-inch mower. I did not realize how often we use the mowers. I know we use them a lot, but they are constantly in the summertime mowing. So we do need to replace these, and then we take the older ones we have right now. We'll have council declare them as surplus, and then we'll auction them off. And these are being secured through Sourcewell municipal pricing.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve PO 26-0814.
Second.
All right, so moved and supported. Any other further questions for staff on this agenda item?
Have we looked at the robotic zero turns yet?
Mr. Hands, I have not looked at the robotic zero turns, or Mayor Pro Tem Hands, I apologize.
It is something I've considered for sports complex and for the cemetery, because the sports complex takes our DPW worker. Between that and the airfield, that's pretty much Todd's only job, because he's constantly.
In the
mowing.
summertime.
In the
In
summertime.
the wintertime, he's plowing streets, but yes, I hear what you're saying.
So if we could make it more efficient.
So, I mean, that is something I think, I know council, you want to get together and do some strategic planning in the future. I think that'd be a larger conversation with council, if that's something they want us to look into, some of this automatic stuff.
Just something to look into,
Yeah.
to see what the cost is, and maybe get a demo unit to see how well they actually do. And if it saves any time, that's, but if these need to get replaced, I'm fine with replacing them, because we need them.
Yeah, they do need to get replaced.
Councilperson Zeter, did you have a question?
Yeah, so we have 3 mowers that are working currently,
That is correct.
and then are we just going to replace them? Or are we gonna run them out until they're not working?
So the existing mowers we have right now, once these new ones come in, and they'll be in, within 2 to 3 weeks, we'll come back to council. It's probably your first meeting in July or second meeting in July. We'll have you declare the existing ones as surplus, and we'll auction them off.
Anything else? Any
No, I'm
follow-ups? Okay.
Not a big fan of getting rid of equipment that's still working.
So I would say that there is a spectrum on the phrase "still working." They're still working with a lot of maintenance. And the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And if we drive these down into the ground all the way, the resale value will be scrap metal.
Does Doug Cosbon have, I'm assuming he kind of has a plan of how long equipment
Yes.
works and then puts it into the capital improvement,
Correct.
okay, budget to, before they are dead, okay. All right, any other questions, comments? No? All right, it's, we got a motion on the table to approve PO 26-0814. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 11D3 is a request to approve PO 26-0812 to Carleton Equipment Company in the amount of $66,186.66 for the purchase of a Bobcat skid steer and planter attachment.
Staying with the capital improvement plan, that we need to purchase some pieces of equipment. Our current Bobcat skid steer is 23 years old. As part of this process, we are getting an $11,000 credit as a trade-in. Delivery is expected by the end of July. We are purchasing this equipment through Michigan's My Deal program.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve PO 26-0812?
I'll make a motion that we approve the PO.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Questions, comments from council?
Joel, the 66,000, does that reflect the 11,000, or is that,
That reflects the 11.
thank you.
The total cost is north of 70.
So heavy equipment lasts for a long, long time. And here again, why are we getting rid of something that works?
The increased maintenance costs that we have is one thing again. The resale value of where it is right now is another idea. This is a practice the city has had for several years with this. I mean, this is a 23-year-old skid steer. And there's times I would recommend to council that it's, be pound wise, whatever that phrase is. Penny wise and pound foolish. let's not be that with their equipment. I mean, this stuff, it's working, but the ongoing maintenance and it's breaking down, is an issue. Because when it's not working, that's lost time of staff.
I mean, it's like buying a car, and you drive the car for 10 years, and pretty soon the warranty's out, and you're changing the tires, and you're replacing, and you're taking it in for everything, and it's starting to cost more than what it's worth. So then you trade it in and get it.
So Cook Equipment is in business, and more than half of their equipment on their lot is more than 20 years old.
But they do put quite a bit of money into rebuilding. That's their
Correct.
specialty.
But then somebody's going to buy that and use it. That I can't see getting rid of the heavy equipment. The mowers are lighter duty equipment, I can kind of see that, but a Bobcat's not gonna just fall apart.
I think what maybe some of us are struggling with is when we got the packet, the list of purchase orders that were, you explained it well, Joel, when, in the email earlier. Maybe you could help us out as far as, is this something that, approving the budget, are we expecting that we'll be doing this every year for the new budget, or is this?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So you guys approved the budget for at your last meeting, was it?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
we did.
You approved $186,000. And motor vehicle pool, non-motorized equipment, which this is considered non-motorized equipment. If there's a question on what we're gonna spend that $186,000 on, or $184,600, please ask those questions in the 5 months of us meeting as we're putting this budget together. So on page 95 shows that $184,600. I also attached the backup work that, Will was the one that asked the question in the email, so I just communicated with Will of what Doug Codsman does for a non-motorized list. So Will got to see over the next 10 years of all the equipment that we're doing, and he copied the mayor on it, so I copied the mayor on my reply. And you can see all the different equipment that we purchase. Now, we're not gonna list every chainsaw, every pole saw, every drill bit, the umpteen million, valves and washers and bolts and nuts and screw pumps that Doug has at the water plants. We're just gonna say it's $333,000 of asset management at the wastewater plant. And if you guys are really interested, Doug and I will sit down with you and we will go over every single one on what it takes to keep the wastewater plant up and running. But, this is a budget that was established by city council. These are improvements that city staff has put together, using their expertise, their information. And I think, so far, they've done a great job in running the city and keeping it moving forward. And I understand it's a lot of purchase orders right away, but we gotta get these things ordered, especially with just the changing market that we're dealing with right now.
So I'm thinking especially for those of us who are on the council who are fairly new, I think maybe the root question is this amount of POs and all that kind of a normal budget thing that we go through every year, but we just haven't seen it before?
So the zero-turn mowers, we plan on replacing those every 5 years.
So this equipment, it's just a normal way of doing business?
It's a normal way of how we run the city.
Asset management.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of what we're talking about here, why we need to replace this equipment is reliability.
There's
If this-
reliability issues.
If some of
there's
this
maintenance, there's
23-year-old
resale.
piece of equipment fails, it could be a significant downtime before people can fix it,
Yeah.
which leads to projects not getting done, people sitting around doing nothing because their equipment's broken.
Yep.
So this is just a way to keep things running efficiently.
I appreciate you picked up on the words I said. It's downtime for employees. We'll find something for someone to do.
Right. But
As my
projects aren't
manager at
getting
McDonald's told me
done.
when I was 15, you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Right.
We'll find something for people to do,
But still, projects get
but
delayed
it's,
and then they
projects
pile
being
up.
delayed.
In a place like Cook Equipment, their whole point is to rebuild equipment, so they can do it quickly. We don't have extra old skid steers sitting behind the building that we can pull parts off to keep ours rolling, so
Next year, you'll be
new
approving.
ones is better,
Next
right?
year, you'll be approving a new backhoe that we got, that's on the schedule for replacement. And it's one of the reasons why our water plant and our wastewater plant, I'll use that department as an example on why we have limited failures over there, is because of the asset management plan that they have developed, and they have stayed on top of that asset management. I mean, when's the last time you've heard of the city of Allegan having to do a boil water advisory? But you hear that in other communities often. Asset management is very important. And for a small city like ours, it is a struggle, as I've shared with you when we look at budget numbers and stuff like that.
I agree. I think, though, that those of us struggling, running companies, trying to make these decisions, which we probably do differently than a municipality, but maybe there's a different way that we can become knowledgeable, that the city can, Doug can let us know on the asset schedules, unless there is a time already planned where we can understand.
No, so I would just throw the ball back in council's court. First of all, as I mentioned to you, Councilmember Walker, you guys can turn every stone over you want. That is your job. And we'll answer all the questions, like the several emails I received from you today. I think I replied to them, within a half hour, so I hope that's a timely response for you. I also would put the onus on council. You do approve the budget. You receive, I know it's a thick budget. I mean, it's 2.5 inches, double-sided.
And
I
this is
expect
all
you-
in the budget,
The line item is in there for $186,000 for non-motorized.
and that's this stuff.
That's the stuff.
Okay.
And if you don't know what $186,000 for non-motorized is, that's okay. It's also okay for you to say, I don't know what this is. What are you gonna be spending $186,000 on, city staff? And then we can show you the back end. Because we're not gonna throw in all this other back end stuff into the budget portion, because then it becomes a 7-inch thick document, and it doesn't meet the GFOA standards for the budget, process that we go through.
So if we wanted, so some of this stuff is planned.
Yeah.
So if we wanted, we could look at those plans.
Yeah, we can show you those plans, we have those discussions. It's the same.
Backhoe, next, then
Yeah.
the one after that, then the one
It's
after
the same
that.
reason.
So we
for
can
wa-
look at that, we can look at that?
For wages, we
Good.
don't list all the wages of the employees in the budget. We just say we need X amount of dollars for each department. We don't go into the benefits for everyone. We just say we need this much. So, but we can dive into that stuff if you have questions. We have no problem doing it.
Well, and I know, I mean, Will, you and I have talked, I probably drive Joel nuts, but that's what I have to do. I mean, I usually text him and say, can I call you quick? As soon as I have a question, and he gets right back to me, I call him, ask my question, and then I'm satisfied. But could be several times a week. So, yeah, don't be shy about throwing questions back at him throughout we only meet twice a month. So there's a lot of stuff that comes up, I'm sure, because I have a lot of stuff. So, yeah. And I know sometimes for my work at home, I work at home on Mondays and Fridays. I'll be like, Joel, can I come down to City Hall on Friday? Because I've got a lot of questions that I want to say face to face with them. So, and I know I can remember being new on council. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot to absorb. So, yeah,
And I was just gonna say,
reach out.
nonprofit, government, it's a lot of the same things, similarly, when I get a grant award, we're getting really low on money right now at the end of the thing. So when I get the grant award and on July 1st, oh yeah, there's
wanna spend it?
15 POs because we're out of paper, we're out of this. The other thing that they tell us is, you don't list every paper clip and whatever, you just put a lump sum in office supplies, because if you list things out, that's all you can buy. So when he gives us one that says, non-motorized equipment, we're giving him the discretion of this is what we need. So it makes sense to me, and, you know, like, I'm also
Yeah,
willing to help out it, you know.
I agree. It does make sense. It's the fine details that we're looking at something, we're approving it, not really sure or don't understand the full details of what we're approving. Okay.
But $66,000 is not a paperclip.
Right.
Correct. $66,000 is the cost of a Bobcat with $11,000 credit added to it. That is coming from Carleton Bobcat of Grand Rapids. They are a dealer for Bobcat in West Michigan, and that price has been established through Sourcewell Municipal Pricing. So to get that price, they had to go through a competitive bid process. So Sourcewell contacted multiple Bobcat dealers and said, what would it cost for X? And that was the low price. So we have gone through the competitive pricing process.
I guess I'm assuming when we do a budget, that if there is something that still has life and is still working for us, that we are not going to just replace it,
Correct.
that will get put off.
Correct. We're not going to throw out a gallon of milk that's still good. But if the milk is spoiled, we're throwing the milk out.
Right.
I have confidence in Doug Cosman, who is our DPW director, that he's doing his job correctly. I mean, I've known Doug since he started working for the city. He's very honest, he's very knowledgeable. I am not that knowledgeable person on this, so that's who I look to as the experts to tell me. All right, any other comments? All right, there's a motion on the table to approve PO 26-0812. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 11D4, request to approve PO 26-0815 to Morbark in the amount of $59,192 for the purchase of a chipper.
All right, this is the last non-motorized
Doug Cosman for all
PO
this.
for
And
that, yes.
Say, tell him he was on the hot seat tonight.
If you've been in my office, you'll notice the two whiteboards. You'll notice on the far whiteboard is agenda items. And he walked in one day and just started writing in black. And he was there for a minute or two. I'm like, what are you doing? So agenda's gonna be long. So we need to purchase a new wood chipper. It's part of our capital improvement plan. The cost is $59,192. We received 3 bids, Morbark, Bandit, and Vermeer. Doug requested that they drop off the chippers to be tested and so forth. Only Morbark and Bandit dropped off chippers for test. The DPW staff, which is the staff in the field, the staff that does the labor, does the work, feels that Morbark, I'm saying Morbark, I apologize.
I don't know, I'm like, is it Morbark or Morbank?
It's Morbark.
Okay.
Yep, I know. It's Morbark. I apologize. Morbark is the one they prefer. Morbark is a Michigan company, so it's manufactured in Michigan. Even though it's the middle price, you have the authority council to, spend a little more. We do not always have to go with the low bid on a project. And it's our recommendation from administration, both Cosman and myself, that we respect the opinion of the workers that will be using the equipment day in, day out. Any questions for staff?
I see this is under the budgeted amount of 80,000.
Correct. So 186 is,
Oh, it's 59 instead of 80.
yeah,
We had budgeted for 80.
yeah, so
Nice.
And what, are we doing the same thing with the old one, selling it or auctioning it off?
yeah, once all these are delivered, we'll create a list of equipment that's surplus that we don't need anymore. And then we'll ask council to declare it surplus. And once you declare it surplus, that authorizes staff to auction it off. And as I mentioned at a previous meeting, there's a handful of auction companies we use, and they all are escaping my mind right now.
Okay.
Mediuma auctions,
All
just
right.
popped in my head.
Can I get a motion to approve PO 26-0815?
I'll make a motion to approve PO 26-0815.
Second.
All right, so moved and supported. Any other questions of staff? Comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Moving down to 11E, point 1 is a request to approve accounts payable and payroll, and Mayor Pro Tem Hans.
All right, it's requested that the city council approve accounts payable in the amount of $681,810.74 and payroll in the amount of $129,851.64 for a total disbursement of $811,662.38.
Any questions?
One question. Can you explain the plumber's invoice for $112,000?
Doug can.
Good.
It's right up his alley.
That is for potholing and lead service identification. That was a grant we received through the state, it's a 100% grant. So, that invoice I will be submitting to the state for reimbursement. So there is no Allegan dollars being spent on it. They're the truck you see going around town, at, the curb stop. And eventually they'll be doing at the corpse, the main on, about 60 to 70 services, to identify what material is on those.
And what's potholing?
Potholing is where they take a vacuum truck and they basically suck a hole down through the ground to the, water service line. Instead of using a mini excavator, so it's, faster, easier, and safer because if you happen to hit a gas line, it doesn't break the gas line.
Good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
Support?
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 11E2 is a request from the Allegan Area Arts Council to have the lower level of the Griswold Auditorium donated to them for the week of August 4th through August 8th for their 2025 Summer Art Camp.
Judy, do you want to come to the podium? You sat there patiently for an hour.
I would rather do. No. I just want to thank the city for letting us use the Griswold. For many, many years, it's the only place our art camp has ever taken place. It's the best space. It's most wonderful. We do not make money on this camp. We just try and do it as a service and bring in more children to have a wonderful art experience, usually the first week in August. And you have the ideal space, and we have the ideal staff, and we're very thankful for both. Any questions? And we have an ice cream social on the last day, and you're more than welcome to come, if we're there.
All right. Can I get a motion?
I will make a motion. I don't know what it says, to
To
donate the lower level of the Griswold, the week of August 4th through 8th.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any comments, questions from council?
Just we got to put up for rent signs around the Griswold, so when people use it for free, they can see, they can
And we
rent it
do
as
put
well.
that in our literature.
Yeah, I know you do, but I'm saying for the city staff to put up
Oh, okay.
in general, just so that people know that that facility is
And the
available for
painting
rent.
looks beautiful on the Griswold. Looks fabulous. It's a great
Thank you.
color.
Credit goes to Parker and Ryan for working with the contractor on that paint color.
Well,
It looks really good.
It looks lovely.
Councilperson Zeter, did you have a?
Here again, we're giving away, the use of an auditorium for an event. We've done that for years and years. At what point will you be able to pay for something?
That's a really good question. We're trying not to make money from this camp. We're trying to use it more. The money that we get from the camp pays for our supplies. And so if we had to raise the price, it might be prohibitive for some families. So hopefully we could someday. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Just saying that because we had gone over charging for the Griswold and we had adapted the policy for use of it. And to give it away, I'm not in favor of that.
Parker, how often, Sunday through Thursday, do people request to rent the Griswold?
It all really just depends on the time of year, mostly. The weekly stuff during the weekdays, we host the American Red Cross, their blood drives. We host Mothers Against Drunk Driving sessions, and those are on a regular basis throughout the week. But that's, and the use by the Allegan community players as well during the week.
So it's not like somebody that would pay would be missing out, like they're already scheduled, like it's mostly the weekends that they're gonna be, it's gonna be
Yes.
rented out, okay.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions, comments from council? No, I have 2 adult children now who both enjoyed the art camps for as many years as they could attend when they were children.
And we had a great time.
Yes, I think we still have some of those projects around the
Yeah,
house,
Suitable
yes.
for framing, actually.
Yes, yes. All right, so there's a motion on the table to donate to the Allegan Area Arts Council the lower level of the Griswold Auditorium. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No?
No,
All right, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
I appreciate your time.
11E3 is review and approval of a financing plan to make infrastructure improvements to the Rossman Park Neighborhood and several downtown Allegan streets.
Thank you, Mayor. In the audience tonight is Doug Swearis and Leah Bechtel. Is that how you pronounce your last name? I just call you Leah, so thank you for verifying. Leah is our main engineer at Abonmarche. This might be the first time you guys have seen Leah's face, so she wanted to come down here, be present for this discussion, and answer any questions that council may have. The next 3 items are kind of intertwined. The first thing we need to talk about is a financing plan on how we can continue to make improvements to the Rossman Park, to our infrastructure throughout the city. We feel staff feels we have a plan forward to invest in Rossman Park Neighborhood, the remaining, what I'm gonna call the downtown streets of Trowbridge, Chestnut, and Walnut, make improvements to the Water Street sewer lining and Grand Street sewer lining, which you approved the PO for engineering and construction earlier this evening, not the construction, not the actual work. The Grand Street utility roads, installing a sludge thickener at the Water Recovery Resource Facility, or the wastewater treatment plant, as I call it. And then again, the Rossman Park. So, we won't beat around the bush. You're all well aware that earlier this year, when we put our first funding proposal together for our capital improvement over the next 6 years, we took what I'm gonna call the conventional route for infrastructure cost assignments, which is when you replace water, sewer, road, sidewalk, trees, et cetera, you divided a third, a third, a third. The water fund pays for a third, the sewer fund pays for a third, and the road fund pays for a third. For us to do that, and working with our bond counsel and our engineers, we established that we were gonna have to bond out a significant portion for the roads and the water and the sewer, but we're gonna need about $500,000 a year to pay that financing payment. We are all well aware how that conversation got off the rails at the beginning, and we kind of just put a pin in it and said, we're not gonna have this conversation about, contracting with police services for that 500,000, let's figure something else out. We then engaged Abonmarche and said, okay, let's talk about the Rossman Park neighborhood. Because the fact is, this infrastructure is not gonna miraculously heal. It is not a starfish. It is not able to just regrow an appendage. We are going to have to fix the pipes in the ground. We are going to have to fix the roads above. We then said, let's look at the downtown as well and see if we can't put a plan together. So the map you have in front of you is a map you saw at the last meeting because we were applying for that $2.5 million grant from Eagle to pay for water infrastructure out here. This map shows Walnut Street, Chestnut Street, and Trowbridge. We're doing new sanitary, replacing storm, adding storm. Council, I'm not sure how familiar you are, but when it does rain down here, the intersection of Chestnut and Trowbridge floods. The storm pipe there is undersized, so we need to address the storm in that area. These are cracks you saw at the last meeting in our sanitary over in Rossman Park Neighborhood. Cracks is a little not accurate. These are more like crevices. This is a picture of the road in the Rossman Park neighborhood. Most of the roads in the neighborhood look like this. Hopefully you've had a chance to drive around that neighborhood. Walnut Street also is in horrible condition. Chestnut is a little bit better. Trowbridge, the main thing we have here is the sidewalks. In the past month, we've had 3 trip and falls on the sidewalks that we are constantly dealing with. This shows pipe separation in the sewer along that sewer main over on Water Street. And this takes us back to that total budget. So as I mentioned at your May 27th meeting, the city was fortunate. We received an additional Local Community Stabilization Act fund from the state of Michigan in the amount of $721,000. When we take our fund balance in the local street fund of $700,000 and our fund balance in our major street fund of $500,000, and when we take $52,000 out of our general fund balance, we are able to pay for that 1.974 all with cash. We do not have to bond for that at all. We will have to bond for water and sewer funds. For us to bond for water and sewer, we are going to have to commit to a rate increase program. So how are we going to pay for this? In 2026, water rates would have to go up 8%, sewer would have to go up 1.5%. In 27 through 2030, water would have to go up for 6%, sewer would have to go up 1.5%. In 2031 through 2035, water and sewer both have to go up 1.5%. The average annual increase over the 10-year period, they would see a $28.86 increase for the average homeowner or ratepayer. This gives a little different way to look at this or present the information. So starting in 2026 with this new rate program, the average property owner will be, or ratepayer will be paying $83.38. 2027, it goes up to $86.40. By 2030, it's $96.41, and then in 35, it's $103.86. This will make it possible for us to do this work starting next year. If we get the grants, it just means the rates will be a little less. We'll be able to go back, run the numbers again, and, withdraw, and reduce those rate increases. But this is planned worst case scenario, no outside funding, et cetera. The reason we're sharing this with you tonight is we are kind of on a little bit of a time crunch if we're going to move forward with these projects. The Rossman Park neighborhood, we would need to bid this over the winter months for spring construction. We've already heard from a couple excavation companies local ones, saying, you guys are going to move on this quick, projects are lining up for next year already. If we wait and push this out a year or two, costs only go up. So what we have in front of you is a path forward with a rate structure for us to redo the streets, water mains, sewer mains, replace all the lead service lines in that neighborhood, improve the sidewalks where we have to because of utilities. We are not going to be putting sidewalks in as we originally were planning. We are not putting trees in as we were originally planning.
Curbs either.
No curbs. We're replacing as is. We have valued engineered this Rossman Park neighborhood so they can not have failing pipes, failing streets, but they're not getting what I call and what Parker refers to as the quality of life amenities. It's still a great neighborhood. I'm a little comfortable with the no curbs, no sidewalks, because it's low travel streets. It's low speed streets, where if it was like on Cutler, we're not talking about Marshall, we're just talking about Kalamazoo. Okay. Where other ones, we might be a little more worried about stuff like that. But replacing as is an appropriate process forward for this. We're not reducing the quality.
How many homes is it again, Joel? Over 100?
Yeah, it's over 100. I think it's close to 200, if I'm not mistaken. But people can correct me. It was, okay. Yeah, it was over 100,
Okay.
in the low hundreds. And this, and, I'll just reiterate it again. These roads, these pipes, they're not going to repair themselves. Eventually, a decision's going to have to be made. And Lee and Doug, feel free to come up to the podium if they have questions we don't answer from the audience. Any questions for staff?
Where does this put our maximum bonding capacity at after this, if this was worst case?
So our bonding capacity is good.
I know it's good, but what does it drop it down to?
I will get that answer for you, because tonight you were just approving the finance plan. You still have to go approve the bonding part.
Bonding's part of the finance plan, because if I don't know the finances, I need to know that
Okay.
to move forward,
Yeah, let me do some quick looking into that.
as well as what's the yearly payments like for these bonds? Was this already in the 26 budget? And 27, was that projected out? I think
Yeah,
I
so
saw.
2026, we showed the downtown aspect of it, but that was when we were doing the third. And then, as council will recall, that whole process kind of got off the rails a little bit. Just as we were wrapping up the budgeting, and staff decided at that time we were not going to make it more difficult on council to rearrange that whole budget, but we're going to do a first quarter budget adjustment.
I was just looking at the debt schedule because there's some projected out there for 27 when I was looking through the budget, and I thought I had seen this in there.
And there's a funding cap or a ratio, is that a limit that you're saying?
Yeah, so what Mayor Pro Tem Hans is referring to is when we go out for bonds and we go out on the market to sell bonds, we can only ask for so much. It's like debt to income ratio is one way to look at it, to put it kind of in layman terms.
While you're looking that up, may I ask
This is
another
gonna be
question?
hard to look up.
Too. I have one for Doug and then also Leah. Leah, okay, sure, Leah. With so many projects going on that Abonmarche is involved in, all seemingly kicking off at the same time,
Yeah.
what staff is that required, and then is that feasibly going to happen on time?
Excellent question. Yes, it is feasible, but we would have to start survey in June. Additionally, you guys applied for the MEDC Water-Related Infrastructure Grant. You do find out June 20th if you won. That would be about is it 2 or 2.5 million?
2.5.
2.5.
Yep, so that would, further decrease the amount of rate increases you'd have to do. If you win that grant, you actually have to have your project competitively advertised by December 31st of 2025. So that's just over 6 months to do it. I wrote these proposals for the downtown and Rossman with specific staff in mind, a specific person, CAD technician, staff engineer, surveyors. So yes, short answer, I have staff ready to do this project. If approved, we would start survey this week. Just because of, it is a very large scope to put together this magnitude of plans would take all of the 7 months we have left in the year.
So Rossman as well as
As
the
well as-
Walnut, the other streets?
Yep, the 4 blocks right here as well, yeah.
And then the Ely that's going on in the
Yeah, so-
airport and,
Yeah, so Ely is more in the construction phase, but we have a staff of 250 total. We just have 9 offices, so everyone's kind of spread out, but we're all really close to Allegan. So I'm based out of the Grand Haven office, so about 50 minutes to get here. So,
okay, thanks.
any other questions for me?
Any other questions for
Were
Leah?
you the one that did the estimating on the downtown project? Or was that somebody else before you?
That
Which
was-
downtown?
So that was Dan.
That was Dan,
Yeah, it was not her.
as well as our bridge? I'm just making sure because they did not take into account increased construction cost and the bids came in way higher. And I just want to
Yeah.
know that this has been looked at and is a good comprehensive of what we expect the cost and the budget to be. And not that we'll put it out for a bid and it'll come back 5 or 7 million more than what we're expecting, and we're gonna have to take out bonding of that.
No, go ahead, Leah.
Yeah, so this includes 10% contingency, the cost.
That did as well, so that's what
Yep.
I'm saying is, the
Also-
previous jobs did, and they were nowhere close to getting it within that 10%. That's my concern is,
Sure.
how well have you guys been seeing the bidding coming in on more recent projects than the streetscape? And has it been coming in close to your engineering estimates, or are they still way off?
In my experience, the market is extremely favorable right now for construction. I've been seeing 3 to 6 bidders on every project that I bid out, and most of them are below my engineer's estimate.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think we've recovered pretty well from COVID. Obviously, we saw prices increase quite a bit, but I'm seeing contractors getting more competitive with each other, which in turn makes them lower their price before they submit bids. That's what I'm seeing. Obviously, there's always stuff politically that comes up, but I like things conservative. All of my unit prices are very conservative. I obviously can't guarantee what prices are gonna come in at, but these are 2 attractive projects to your local contractors, so I would anticipate you're gonna get at least 3 high-quality bids from your larger contractors in the area. We just have to act quickly because I think they're already bidding out projects for 2026 construction.
You good?
Thank you. Yeah,
thank
Anything
you.
else for
real-
Leah?
Not for
All right, thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
And then Doug, yeah, can you help us make it a little more palatable? Because I think with the thickener, we would be able to generate more income, is that right?
So with the thickener, for the resource recovery facility, first of all, it would help alleviate our issues of being able to store biosolids long enough to get the contractor in to apply them. It would thicken it. Right now, we're applying around 3%. Hopefully, we get to 6, possibly even 8% with a thickener. That increases our storage capacity because it reduces the amount of water we're storing. So it helps us in an operational standpoint. Second of all, it reduces our budget. Upcoming budget, we have $525,000 for biosolids removal. That's figuring it at 3%. If we increase that to 6 or 8%, potentially we have the possibility of taking $200,000 to $250,000 out of that budget because we're not hauling as much water. Third, as you're referring to, council member, that, because we have potentially more storage capacity because it's thicker, there's a possibility we could have more waste come in that we could treat and charge for, and to utilize that newfound space in the storage areas.
Is that realistic, or would
We get
not?
call, there are weeks we go without calls about, hey, can you take this waste? And then one week we'll get calls from 2 or 3 different trucking companies of, can you take this waste? Sometimes it's the same one, they're all competitively bidding for a waste, and they're trying to find a home for it. Other times, it's 3 different waste streams from 3 different companies, so. And it doesn't even have to be that. Recently, one of our current customers, who they're hauling for, they asked, hey, we're doing special cleanups, can we haul more? Last month, they pretty much doubled their deliveries, all from the same company, just because they're doing more work, more cleanups in their process. So yes, you know, that, it's an expense, it's part of the bonding, but it reduces our budget that would help to make that bond payment.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Joel, did you have enough time to get,
So we have not asked the bonding council to run this new scenario. What we had him do earlier this year was, if we continue our AAA minus rating, which is what we are for a city our size, and with all of our dependence on Payroll, because we are a one-company town. When we are looking at our 9.6 million, the total debt service is just under 700, with the total amount at 13. Doug, in the spreadsheets you gave me, did you do the same number in that spreadsheet for the rate-making software?
The same number.
When we ran the rate-making software,
Yep.
is there a tab on this?
Yes, that figures the rates.
The rates, but for the bonding.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a tab in there that does it. Also, I believe, these are revenue bonds. The city doesn't really have a limit with revenue bonds, you just raise rates more to cover the revenue bonds.
Well, I have a limit, it's the pitches and forks come flying out at us with rate increases.
increase.
That is true, but it's not like a general obligation bond that is relying on tax revenue that
Yeah.
cannot be increased.
I think our legal debt limit was like 21 million.
Yeah.
Debt margin was 14. I saw some of it in the budget, in the financial summary on like page 185 and 186. I was just trying to make sure what's that affecting? Is
Yeah.
that taken in account in that budget year or was not? Because it did talk about that neighborhood in this current budget at that beginning of that page talking.
Yeah, so the bonding, we don't have to begin paying until next year when we start making payments. So our 8% increase for the water is planned for July 1st, 2026, not 2025.
The 8% takes effect this July. It's in this coming budget.
The current one, yeah.
Yes.
But for this stuff moving forward, the 6 and 6,
Yes,
it's 2026?
And it
Yeah.
says,
yep.
in addition to any other rate increases that we'd have to do just for general cost? Because this is just a rate increase to cover revenues. Because we've been doing rate increases all these years, is this just for total rate increase? Or are we talking this plus?
No, this is a total increase, so it's O&M plus
yeah,
bonding.
so the asset management plan is included in this, all the existing stuff.
Yeah.
And what we did is, when we heard from the community that, hey, we aren't looking for other kinds of budget savings, this, we went back, we got creative with how much can water really cover. Those roads in the Rossman Park neighborhood, thankfully, are narrow roads. And so with the depth of the water and depth of the sewer, we're able to work out a trapezoid to say this much road, and we're able to cover almost all of the asphalt. The roads that the city is paying for out of cash on hand are roads where there's no utilities in the ground.
But this is still only gonna cover this. When we
Yeah.
going back to the discussion with the police and all that, we still have, going forward, a long-term plan of other streets and roads that are not, we still have to figure those out. going
That we
down the road.
don't have a plan to how are we gonna pay for that
Right,
stuff,
okay.
correct?
I just wanna make sure that people
Yeah.
understand that.
This only takes care of, and one thing I would offer the council is the Rossman Park neighborhood, that's a significant geographic size. And it is our worst infrastructure. So the benefit, I mean, it's over 100 homes.
We have, I mean, yeah, we have sewer lines that are crumbling.
Cracking.
Yeah. so,
Water
I mean,
sewer
we
is
have to
80
do-
years old up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it's beyond the lining point.
Yeah.
They're failing.
Yep.
And the other thing I'd probably point out, I mean, it's a subjective comment here, but the work we did in 2018, 2019 in the Russell Robinson neighborhood, a handful of those homes, after we did that investment, have flipped. And I'm quite impressed on the flipping that occurred. So when a town comes through and a city comes through and it invests in its infrastructure, there is a positive market reaction that typically occurs in private property investment. So there's an opportunity here, I see, in this neighborhood as well, to, have that improvement, in addition to just providing good services to the residents.
Although I would probably change your slide that says average annual increase of 2886. That's like the total rate increase over a 10-year period. It's like the rate increase difference, 10-year delta. Because it was a little confusing to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, 240 and then 2886, what? How's this mathing? It wasn't mathing for me. Because it was the rate increase over a 10-year period would be 2886. So from year 0 to year 10.
Yeah.
That average user would have a 2886.
I'm also glad it didn't math for you, because it mathed for me on Wednesday last week, and about 5 o'clock this afternoon, I had Doug in my office saying, Doug, there's no way this is a good idea. And he goes, Joel, let me explain it to you again. And about 15 minutes later, I'm like, okay. And that's when we created that slide this afternoon at 5:15 to make it make sense for us. We are going to have to engage the bond council next to give you hard numbers. I would recommend that we approach, because the next, I understand I'm asking you to approve a financing plan. And all you're really doing right now is approving, in theory, how we can move forward. If you say no tonight, it's, really, it's okay. The brakes are done, and we're not going to move forward with the other 2 items after this. However, as Leah mentioned, we're going to miss out. If we get that grant, we are already behind the 8 ball. We have to move forward with the design of that Rossman Park neighborhood. And I would offer, the way we presented the downtown to the council at that time is we have a PO for the whole thing, and we're going to ask you to approve the whole thing, fully knowing that we can stop after the design. And that, because if you don't pull the trigger on the project, there's no construction engineering, there's no construction management. So we really need to start the design on that part. And my quick math in that PO, that's $515,000, that we would be spending. And then I didn't do the math on the downtown, but I'd recommend we do that as well. And so you just approve the 2 POs after, approve the financing. We will engage our bond counsel immediately tomorrow to give you guys the exact numbers. Because for all the new ones out here on the council, that is a very fun process, because there's a lot of notices in the paper that are like 2 pages long in the paper. Allegan County News really appreciates us doing bonds, because we have to pay a very hefty advertising fee to them. And our bond counsel, Warren Kramer from MCFI, they are more than willing. They're itching to come down and talk about this process with you. And they were set to come in April, and I said, well, things have kind of gone off the rails. Let's not bring you down till we get to another place here.
Okay, so first, we need to have a motion for approval of a financing plan.
I make a motion to approve the financing plan as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Are there any other questions about this financing plan? No? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. I was like, Peter.
Peter, you're not,
Nope, he did.
should we discuss more?
Well, that
We can't.
one passes. So now we'll move down to 11E4 is a request to approve PO 26-0817 to Abonmarche in the amount of $1,190,000 for design and construction engineering for Rossman Park Neighborhood. This is not approving construction, it is just the,
You're approving the PO for, for us to continue to work with Abonmarche on the design and construction engineering. It's for the full amount of $1.1 million, or $1,190,000. The proposal was in the packet. As Mayor Pro Tem Hands alluded to, you do see the engineer's estimates in here, so you have something to fall back on and discuss. I will let you know that from the construction perspective on the Hubbard Street parking lot, besides the additives that staff has thrown on there, their bid has come in beneath what they estimated on that, which has been good. Same with Mayhem Park. So, yeah, I think the construction economy, the market has simmered down. Yeah, I'm hearing that from our contacts at MDOT as well on road projects. Asphalt has simmered down from where before it was crazy. Again, you'll be approving the PO so they can begin the work. It's reimbursement work, so they do the work and we're reimbursing them for it. You saw the breakdown into different phases. We really need to start this work so we can, meet that deadline of bidding this over the winter months. Any questions on the proposal submitted by Abonmarche? And Leah's here, she can answer them at the podium if you have questions for her.
Well, Joel, what were you saying about the reimbursement? Can you explain that again?
Sure, so the way our contracts work with any contractor, you do the job, you submit an invoice, then we pay your invoice. We don't do upfront payments.
I thought they all said payment in advance.
Where do you see that at?
I highlighted a few, unless I am thinking about something different, but there were several that all said payment in advance.
That historically has not been our practice, has it?
Not for engineering services.
Let's see.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so once we set up a project or a PO with the city, we just invoice you monthly. So we would start in June, and then any labor we would spend in June, my July invoice would be labor covered the month of June. So it's previous work. Because it's my direct labor that I bill to a project, I send that to you guys for this scope of services covered. But if there's a typo or anything in the proposal, I can 100% modify it.
Well, the verbiage says the client agrees to promptly pay for services provided by Abonmarche for the scope of work for lump sum of $1.19 million.
Yep, so we only invoice labor that has been expended. So like, for
Should that-
example, in June, I would only invoice you guys for likely survey work, because that's the only thing that's been done so far.
Sure,
So,
okay, that
yeah.
makes sense, but should
Yeah.
this be, if it says lump sum,
So the lump sum is the total bill, so it's not a time and materials. You can have a relationship with an engineer that says time and materials, and you estimate it's gonna cost $300,000. And then a year later, they're like, no, you owe me $450,000, and here's what I've done. So that lump sum
Yeah.
is kind of viewed as a not to exceed, is one way to view that,
Yep.
Will. And if there's concern about that, you can always just amend your motion to say, we approved a PO with the direction to staff that you did not pay for work for services not rendered.
unless, Leah, is it stated anywhere else that it's invoiced?
Oh, invoiced monthly?
differently,
I
yeah.
can look at our agreement that we have with the city, but it's our standard agreement. We would never invoice you guys for this full amount because about half of it is just design. So like Joel was saying, my design fee total is $515,000. So that work is gonna be expended from June until December primarily. And then the other half, construction inspection is just really expensive for us to be full-time watching the contractor, ensuring things are built correctly. So a large portion of these expenses would be in 2026. But like Joel said, let's say we do the design, we're only gonna invoice you for what's happening, so, yeah.
Okay. And obviously, that's been precedent also, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with Abonmarche since 2015. I've been here since 2017, and it's always been monthly invoices, and they list all the work they did. I mean, with all of our contractors, that's how we
Okay,
move forward.
that is fine. It just says lump sum. So, makes me think lump sum. Very good.
All right, any other questions for staff? No? All right, with that, can I get a motion to approve PO 26-0817?
I'll make a motion to approve the PO.
And support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any other comments?
If we don't continue with the job, of course, we won't pay into the inspection and all the others, because this is a PO
Yeah,
operation.
we will not.
All right. I don't see any others.
I mean, I believe that's the direction from council. So, yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, we'll move down to 11E.5 is a request to approve PO 26-0818 to Abonmarche in the amount of $475,000 for design and construction engineering for the Trowbridge, Chestnut, and Walnut infrastructure project.
All right, similar to the conversation we just had, this is the other half of design, engineering, construction engineering. The design phase is gonna cost the city $205,000. The construction phase is $270,000 for a total of $475,000. Any questions for council or staff on this one?
All right, can I get a motion to approve PO 26-0818?
I'll make a motion to approve PO 260818.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any other further discussion, questions for staff before we vote? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, moving down to 11E.6, review and discussion regarding a proposed right-of-way vacation and city property sale to make way for a new development on the former Sunset Lanes bowling alley.
Thank you, Mayor. At your June 23rd meeting, next meeting, the city council will be holding a public hearing on a right-of-way vacation and a land sale in the area that's near the former Sunset Lanes bowling alley. So you are near the intersection of Sherman and M40/M89. And the survey document that's in your report and it's on the screens, it references a little stub called Western Avenue that bends and turns into 115th that goes towards the middle school. So I've been working with the developer, the new owner of the Sunset Lanes bowling alley. He would like to remove that structure and build a little shopping center is what I'll refer to it as. The shopping center will have two buildings. One is about a 3,000 square foot building, and then the other one will have multi-tenants and be L-shaped, as you can see on the screen. To make this project work the best, can we turn on the laser? Thank you. To make this project work and the best and utilize the majority of the land here, where my laser is here right now, I don't know how to draw a straight line. This is an existing right-of-way. So when the city worked with MDOT to realign Sherman Street. They did not vacate this right-of-way. Now, one reason why they probably didn't vacate this right-of-way is we do have a water main and a sewer main underneath there. But you have the ability to vacate right-of-way and just put an easement for water and sewer and saying you can't put a building over it. What you cannot do as a private property owner is build a structure in a right-of-way. So his plan that he has developed is able to build a structure where that right-of-way is located without being over our water or sewer mains. They would be on private property underneath the parking area, but if we have an easement, we're okay there. He also needs to secure this little parcel that the city owns because the development comes out, some of his parking is gonna come out in this little area. And that parcel really is of no use to the city. The city would then retain what's known as parcel C in this area, and that's where Sherman Street is and Western Avenue. So as it stated in the memo in the city council's, the council report, the developer has paid for the survey. That was the initial agreement I had with him, where I just said, hey, if you want us to consider this, you have to invest in the survey, because he was asking me what the legal description was and what parcels where the lines need to be drawn. And I'm like, the city's not gonna invest in this. If you want us to consider this, you know, you do that heavy lifting, and, you know, he has done that heavy lifting for us. This will be an exciting project. It will be a good addition to this area when it's all said and done. There is a planning commission review that will have to occur because it's a site plan. But I just wanted to share this with council tonight, so at your June 23rd meeting, you're not completely surprised. It's straightforward and cut and dry with me on how the lot splits happen, but I understand it's also a little convoluted for someone that's not involved with stuff like this every single day. So if you have questions, feel free to ask questions. But tonight, I am just giving you an update of more development that I'm working on in the city.
Why wouldn't we want to look at that for housing instead?
I wouldn't want to look at that for housing because it is a high intersection that has commercial property around there. The city didn't buy it. We don't own it.
Yeah, that's my thought. We don't own it. Why do we get to direct what they want to do with it?
Yeah.
Like, this is private property.
Just
They just
south,
want the easement gone, which is a pointless thing.
Well, that's one lever we have.
just south of
I don't
here.
play those games.
Yeah, just south of here is an office building. Just east of here, across Sherman, is the grocery discount store, so it's kind of a commercial node on the north side of Western / Lincoln / M40, M89 North. There's like 5 different names for that road. It is a commercial strip center. So it would be my recommendation from a planning perspective that, you know,
Could this property come in and out of the city's quote-unquote city zone because of liquor licenses in the past? We had like an agreement.
yeah, so there's a 425 agreement between the township and the city because it was a bowling alley. The township had a tavern license for beer and wine, I think it was, and the bowling alley wanted to sell beer and wine. The city didn't have any more licenses to give because we're fully
So are we
developed.
canceling the 425 agreement then?
This does not cancel a 425 agreement. We still have control over all land use decision-making in this area. That will go through the planning commission.
Did we split any of the tax revenues with them?
We split tax revenues with Allegan Township on this parcel right now. We got this, they got city land in Riverview. We have to give them taxes. All those waterfront properties in the Riverview addition, the city gets 0 taxes because the people making decisions back then agreed to that. We're gonna be revisiting our 425 agreements with our township neighbors. But yeah, again, this is just giving you guys an update. If you guys have questions, you can ask them this evening. if you're not quite sure what's being asked of you on the 23rd, please see me before the 23rd.
Gotcha.
All right, is there any questions for tonight? Okay. All right. Let's move down to 11E.7 is review and request to authorize the city to purchase Ford Ranger from Enterprise in the amount of $9,238.66.
Thank you, Mayor. As council is well aware, our passenger vehicles, so not the heavy equipment, but our passenger vehicles are through a lease program with Enterprise. Most of the trucks we have for 2 years or 3 years, and then Enterprise sells them, and then we get a cut back. It's been pretty fruitful for us. In the past, we've profited $82,000 and some change through this program. However, the automakers have removed the deep government discounts that we used to benefit from. So we're not sure how profitable it's going to be moving forward. However, this Ford Ranger is a vehicle that we lease from them. It's a 2002 vehicle. It has under 10,000 miles on the vehicle, and we are looking at buying it outright from Enterprise for $9,238.66. The lease ends in October. By buying it now, we're going to save $979 total. And it's an excellent condition. You can see a picture of it up there. I complained that it doesn't have cruise control, but that's okay. You really don't need cruise control. 98% of your time, you're just in the city. It doesn't have power locks, but that's also okay. We can use a key to unlock the door. From the outside, it doesn't have power locks. Remote. Keyless entry. Yeah, it doesn't have keyless entry, but that's okay. We can unlock the sides of the key and then hit the unlock button when we get inside.
What department uses this vehicle?
Code enforcement uses it the most.
Okay. And is code enforcement still in-house in City Hall instead of with the police?
So it's a joint effort between the city and the police department, but yeah, City Hall took it back over about a year and a half ago. We said, hey, we need to just stay on top of this.
Get you a nice used Prius for that price and save on gas.
So
I'm a little, okay, so are we doing Enterprise, or are we not? Because you're saying that we're not seeing that it's probably gonna be as profitable in the future. That was kind of how it was sold to us, that we were gonna be able to sell these back.
yeah.
And is that why we're going this direction now?
This is our first toe out of the door, is the way I would phrase this, Mayor Pro Tem. This is us looking at, we don't want to lose an opportunity here. The reason we use a pickup truck for code enforcement is sometimes you just put the car in park, hit the flashers, and you throw the couch in the back of the truck and go throw it away. Especially when someone leaves the couch on 222 Bridge by the Kalamazoo River, and it's not in someone's front yard. Sometimes you just got to pick up the trash.
What year did you say this vehicle was?
2022.
Okay, because I thought you said 2002.
That's what
I apologize.
2002.
I did say it. I
If
figured.
2002, that's kind of pricey.
Yeah, no, it's a 2022.
Thanks, Carl, that's what I heard too.
My Ford Ranger that I personally own is a 2006. It also doesn't have cruise control or power windows. And it's rusted out.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, we could pay the $9,000 for that, sell it, and get a Prius. We could make a lot more money on this and then get the Prius.
Those are all discussion
point.
points.
So yes, I think we should
Put a
buy
hitch
it.
on the back of it in
And a
case
nice
you gotta pick
Prius
up a
V,
couch.
15,000,
So let's just, again, you're gonna have a strategic planning session at some time in the future. You can discuss that stuff then.
So we are planning on keeping this for quite a while then.
We are planning on keeping this for quite a while unless council directs us in a different direction from a policy perspective.
And the next council remembers Joel said that. All right, so can I get a motion to authorize the city to purchase the Ford Ranger?
I'll make a motion to purchase the Ranger. Yep.
I'll second the motion that we purchase a 2022 Ranger.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion, questions of staff? Nope. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. 11E.8 is a review and approval of the closing of the Division 20 MERS Defined Benefit Plan as of August 1st, 2025, and transferring Division 20 to MERS Defined Contribution Plan.
Thank you, Mayor. On July 8th, 2025, our police chief turns 50 years old, and per the employment contract we have signed with him, when he became police chief, he then is transferred from a defined benefit retirement program to a defined contribution retirement program. Just remind City Council, 90% of our employees are on defined contribution. So this is not a one-off. This is coming into the fold is the way I would describe it. However, we can only do the change on the first of the month kind of dates. So that's why we are going to do this on August 1st, because it has to be after the 50th birth date. This was agreed to by the police chief when he received that promotion. It was negotiated with the council at that time as part of that promotion. Any questions for staff?
All right. Seeing no questions for staff, can I get a motion to approve the closing of the Division 20 and transferring to the Division 20 to MERS Defined Contribution Plan?
So moved.
In support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other questions, comments from council? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okey-doke, we're gonna move down to agenda item number 13, which is our second public comment of the night, and it looks like everybody got bored of us except for Mrs. McCall. If there is any public comment, please approach the podium. I am not seeing any public comment, so I'm gonna move down to agenda item number 14, which is communications from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things I want to touch base on for council. At the last meeting, there was a handful of residents that inquired about local purchase policies. We've had that discussion with city council in the past, and we've agreed that our current language in our purchasing ordinance that says that we can select a bidder based on what we think is best for the city covers that instead of locking us into something. Also, a reminder to council as well as the public that we contract with general contractors. They hire subs. We can't control who their subs contract with. So both examples that were given at the last meeting, it was the subs that contracted out with a non-local supplier. And there's no control that the city has on that. So I just wanted to respond to that issue. I would like to also remind council and thank the council members that signed up that this Saturday is Bridge Fest. You have signed up to work the community tent. I believe that happened 2 meetings ago. Parker will be sending out a reminder to the council members to remind you what hours you signed up for. We still need 7 people to sign up to work various events at Bridge Fest. We have not received anyone from our Positively Allegan board to sign up to work at the stations. Nobody from any of our boards and committees or city staff members. So if you know of someone that wants to give, they're 2-hour or 3-hour shifts.
2 to 2.5 hours, depending on what position you would like to select. And we only need 6 volunteers because Joel Dye has generously offered to fill one of our volunteer slots, so he is the sole volunteer.
No,
Do
that
we
will
need-
not happen.
Do we need 2 at the table? Because if we all signed up, at least that's 3 more slots for you.
So, at the council,
Yes, we want 2 people at the council tent at each time for each hour. And just so we're clear, I volunteer every year, and I always tell Parker, you just plug me in where you need to plug me in, except for dunk tanks. That
I
is
put
never
Joel in.
happening.
I put Joel in because I know that he wants to see the bands playing during Bridge Fest, so he's not working during the band.
Yeah. So, never happening. So that's one thing, and then also just a reminder to council that our summer Rolling on the River concert series kicks off Friday night. And that's always a great time, I think, for the public to just come together and, hang out, talk, visit, build relationships. And then hopefully Mayhem Park is done this week with just final touches. With the parking lot over here, there's a little more rehab they have to do, but we were able to open up most of it for parking, which we thought was a win.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Carl? Nothing? Okay. Melanie? Nothing? Mike?
No, I think I'm good this week.
Okay.
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Oh, no. Hey, I'm here all night.
I think that's a big win to have Mahan Park ready for Bridge Fest, because that wasn't supposed to happen. I think that's great. Yeah. Okay. I will email what we discussed earlier. I'll just do that in an email to discuss at the next. Let's do that. I like that. Okay.
Okay.
I'm done.
I think were you having a conversation with yourself over
Pretty
here?
much.
Okay. Peter, anything?
Just a question is, how's the apartment inspection or rental inspection program going? Has that been going all right, or do we need to readdress that in the future meetings?
It's a timely.
Go too far into it, I'm just.
Yeah, we're not gonna go too far into it. So it was brought to our attention by a handful of landlords that the ordinance that the previous council passed had some logistical errors, is what I would call them. Some rewording that had to happen. We brought that back to the new council, and at the second reading, it was tabled. It was never brought up again because it wasn't tabled to a specific meeting. I believe Councilmember Walker inquired, like, how do we have this conversation? We just need to know how we want to have the conversation. Right now, it's on pause.
All right.
To answer that question.
And then, as far as local bidding or local consideration, when we do take bids, it's actually in our ordinance 2-15, 5K, we can take local bidders into consideration as they could be providing jobs and other things, so we actually have that already in there. So, not as it applies to subs, it applies to when we receive bids. So when we receive a bid in, we can take that they're a local supplier into consideration because they could be providing jobs or be able to do it more quickly because they're local. So that is actually in our ordinances, unless if the current ones online are out of date already. I don't think so.
Yeah, you said 215K?
Subsection 5, when bids are received.
So 215, is it A?
No, 215.
Okay, yeah, A5K?
A5K, sorry, I see the.
If the bidder is a local vendor who may be able to provide services more efficiently or provide, yeah, so under that section right there, when are all bids received for the same total amount or you? Going with the previous conversation was, do we want to set a threshold? It's like some local ordinances, maybe a percentage of the lower bid then you could get, then council would go up to that.
It was Emmett County.
Yeah, it was Emmett County, or if you were, and there's a geographic location, like what's local? Is local Allegan County or is local 49010 zip code, kind of a thing. So yeah, it's listed in there as one of the many ones that we can do because of A through K of things we can go on when the bids are the same.
Oh, and Saturday, I will not be able to be at Bridge Fest because I have to leave town next week and I have to leave on Saturday. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to be at the table.
All right. Will not be here for the June 23rd meeting. And that's all I had. And I will adjourn at 8:09.